I'm
Yes.
dying to get into this new brand launch because I think this specific audience is one that is obsessed with pivots, obsessed with, changing what they're doing.
Yeah.
A lot of people thinking about starting businesses or starting their own, ventures. And that's exactly what you've done. But before we get into that, I really want to understand where you got the entrepreneurial bug. Did you have, like business owners or founders in your family? Where does it come from?
Oh, goodness. Yes. Well, my grandfather on my mom's side, he used to have an antique store. And I would always be oftentimes after school with him, helping with his antiques and watching what it's like to, just be in business and also customer service. Mm-hmm. And then my mom, though she was a travel agent for many years, she also used to do, like not a county fair, but street festivals and things like that, where you have little pop-ups and vendors. And so we'd go downtown, she'd buy fabric, and she'd make dresses and would sell those. And when we were down there, we'd go to downtown LA, I would buy with my allowance, just sort of the overstock, you can buy like 1 yard at a time. And I started using my own sewing machine. I would make scrunchies. So when I was about 5th, 6th grade, I was selling scrunchies for $1 a piece at school. And so I guess it starts young when you get to see that you can have your hands involved in something and really be able to share that more broadly, but also you can earn at the same time.
Yeah, you're stacking the cash. $1 a scrunchie. I mean, come on.
$1 at a time. But it was great. It really did spark something in me.
Yeah, and at that time, we were loving the scrunchies. So you were probably selling through a bunch of those.
Can you imagine if I was doing that now? So it'd probably be pretty good.
It would work out, I'm telling you. So take me back to the beginnings of As Ever, because I'm guessing that like so many founders, you've been trying to get this business off the ground for a while. It's finally launched and to much fanfare.
Oh, goodness.
So I'd love to know, I want to understand, like, how did it start?
I knew that I wanted to put something in the world. And for years, we've been out here for 5 years now, really trying to decipher what do I want to share? Mm-hmm. What do I authentically, organically want to share, and how to translate that? And, truth be told, I had just been making a lot of jams and preserves at home and sharing them as holiday gifts with a lot of friends. And it was one morning, beginning of the new year, so many friends at the same time had texted saying, I don't know what it is, but your jams just make me so happy. And I thought, maybe that's the thing, because I do believe it was probably more obvious to a lot of people that I would get into fashion or beauty.
No doubt.
That seemed like the natural inclination, but that's not what I was sitting around doing every day. And so my real passion was in this way of sharing. And I love being in the kitchen. I've always loved cooking. So I thought maybe I could translate it into a smaller brand, and then made a very big pivot, as you say, when I went from about to onboard a CEO and a small team to having Netflix as my partner. That takes it to a completely different level.
Totally different level.
And yes, and goes very far beyond my ideas of, I can sell locally. I could maybe be at a farmer's market. I thought that would be cute.
I'm going to do global Netflix.
So suddenly it changed quite a bit. And then the offerings, of course, will expand to meet that same demand and that, interest, which I'm grateful for.
So talk me through that partnership a little bit, because so many people, when they start, they're either bootstrapping or they're going out and raising money. You did actually what I did, which was to take a partner. So what does that look like for you right now?
Yes. Well, their consumer products goods division has typically done lots of merchandise and bespoke and interesting brand work, but for pre-existing shows.
Right. So it's like a Stranger Things, like the top titles.
Yeah, Stranger Things, Bridgerton. So you could easily go Bridgerton, Regency era, go, and do an incredible collaboration with Pat McGrath, or do something with Liberty of London with that thematic. So where things were different with me, of course, is that it wasn't a brand that was established. It was my ideation, and doing it with them, we're developing it as we're going. And so I think, as you know, in building brands, it doesn't happen overnight. It can't happen overnight. I guess the difference with me is that so much of that work that can typically be done behind the scenes for most founders, there's just so much curiosity that you are building the plane while and flying it at the same time, but you're still in the building phase. You just don't get to build in quiet.
Well, it's a gift and a curse, right? It's one of those things where there must be a part of you that's like, great, there's an interest in what I'm doing, but there's also just such scrutiny in what you're doing.
There's a lot of focus on every detail and every moment of quiet.
Do you every single moment quiet,
everything,
and everything?
It really does. It really runs the gamut. But at the same time, what a blessing that it creates and generates so much buzz and so much interest. But I'm still never willing to sacrifice or compromise on the quality and to take my time. Someone else's urgency is not my urgency.
Damn right. I mean, I honestly think that that's a great way to think about it. With this partnership, do you think it brings more scrutiny or is it all upside?
I don't think it brings more scrutiny. I think it certainly brings more attention and curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
How could it not? Especially because it's a new chapter for Netflix as well from the CPG side. And really, when you link it to the Netflix series with Love, Meghan, it is where content and commerce can meet in a really unique way. So I think with season 2 coming up, we've been able to really maximize that opportunity also and look at what I'm making in season 2 and see that reflected and complementary in what the brand has an offering.
And how are you really thinking about that? Because obviously the brand will live in between the show. It's going to live while the show, if the show doesn't continue, it will just, I'm assuming that the brand just continues to grow.
Of course.
So how are you actually thinking about that partnership? Because I know when I started, that initial partnership that you do in business, you can get it really right, you can get it really wrong. God knows I got it wrong enough times.
You?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, because you know what? Certainly for me, there was such a sense of desperation to just get something done that the first person that was like, hey, we believe in you, I was like, great, me too, let's go.
For years now, one of the most common criticisms aimed at Meghan Markle has been that every conversation somehow ends up being about Meghan herself. Critics repeat that claim so often that many people simply accept it without stopping to examine what is actually being said, what questions are being asked, and what expectations are being placed on her that are rarely placed on anyone else. And that brings us to Meghan's recent conversation with entrepreneur and business leader Emma Grede. The reaction from critics was immediate. Some argued that Emma arrived ready to discuss business, while Meghan supposedly arrived ready to discuss herself. Others claimed the interview was proof that Meghan lacks the substance required to be taken seriously as a founder. But did we all watch the same interview? Because what many critics seem to overlook is that building a brand is not just about spreadsheets, profit margins, manufacturing timelines, and product launches. A brand, especially a lifestyle brand, is often deeply connected to the story of the person behind it. Whether it's fashion, beauty, wellness, food, or media, audiences don't just buy products. They buy into values, experiences, and personal journeys. And that's exactly what Meghan was discussing. Throughout the conversation, Meghan spoke about lessons from her life, the experiences that shaped her, the challenges she has faced, and the mindset that continues to drive her forward. Yet, critics interpreted those personal reflections as evidence that she was somehow avoiding business. The question is, why? Because when other entrepreneurs discuss their origins, they're praised for being authentic. When founders share childhood memories, they're celebrated for revealing the roots of their inspiration. When business leaders discuss personal struggles, they're called relatable and transparent. Yet, when Meghan does something similar, critics suddenly decide that personal storytelling has no place in a business conversation. That double standard has become impossible to ignore. One of the themes Meghan touched on was courage, the idea of moving forward despite uncertainty. Critics often mock phrases like faith over fear, dismissing them as slogans. But entrepreneurship itself is built on that very principle. Every founder takes risks. Every founder launches projects without guarantees. Every founder faces criticism. And every founder must decide whether fear will stop them from taking the next step. The reality is that entrepreneurship isn't simply a collection of business strategies. It's also a mindset. It's resilience. It's determination. It's the willingness to keep going when people are actively rooting for your failure. If anyone understands that kind of pressure, it is Meghan Markle. For years, she has faced a level of scrutiny that few public figures experience. Every project is analysed, every statement is dissected, every success is minimised, every setback is magnified. Yet, despite all of that, she continues creating, she continues building, she continues launching new ventures, she continues showing up. That alone contains lessons that many aspiring entrepreneurs can learn from. Critics also insist that Meghan should spend more time discussing mistakes and failures. On the surface, that sounds reasonable. After all, people often learn the most from setbacks. But what critics conveniently ignore is that Meghan's entire public journey has been filled with challenges that have unfolded in front of the world. From stepping away from royal life to navigating intense media scrutiny, from rebuilding her professional identity to launching new ventures under a microscope, there has been no shortage of obstacles. The difference is that many critics don't want reflection. They want confession. They don't want insight. They want ammunition. And those are two very different things. Another criticism making the rounds is the idea that Meghan had advantages when launching her ventures. Well, of course she did. And so do countless successful entrepreneurs. Many founders begin with family resources. Many benefit from industry connections. Many have influential networks. Many inherit opportunities others never receive. Success stories are rarely built on identical starting lines. The question is not whether someone had advantages. The question is what they do with them. Even with global recognition, launching a successful brand remains difficult. Recognition creates attention, but it doesn't guarantee loyalty. Fame can generate headlines, but it cannot force customers to return. Visibility opens doors, but it doesn't automatically build a sustainable business. Those things still require work. Those things still require execution. Those things still require persistence. And perhaps that's where some critics become frustrated. Because the narrative they've been promoting for years depends on Meghan failing. Every new project is greeted by predictions of disaster. Every announcement is met with skepticism. Every accomplishment is dismissed as insignificant. And yet she keeps moving forward. That reality doesn't fit comfortably within the story her critics want to tell. What was particularly interesting about the conversation with Emma Grede was the contrast between how supporters and critics interpreted the exact same moments. Supporters saw a woman reflecting on her experiences, discussing resilience, sharing the personal foundations behind her business journey, and speaking about the values she hopes to bring into her ventures. Critics saw self-promotion. Supporters saw storytelling. Critics saw deflection. Supporters saw authenticity. Critics saw image management. The same interview, the same words, completely different conclusions. And perhaps that says more about the audience than it does about Meghan herself. Because once people decide who they believe someone is, every action becomes filtered through that assumption. If they admire you, your stories become inspiring. If they dislike you, those same stories become evidence against you. Few public figures demonstrate this phenomenon more clearly than Meghan Markle. What's also worth noting is that Emma Grede herself is no stranger to entrepreneurship. She understands that founders often discuss the personal experiences that shaped their vision. Business is not created in a vacuum. Products emerge from ideas. Ideas emerge from experiences. Experiences emerge from people. Separating the founder from the story isn't always possible because the founder often is the story. That doesn't mean every answer must contain financial details. It doesn't mean every interview needs a breakdown of supply chains and operational structures. Different conversations serve different purposes. Some interviews focus on technical details. Others focus on motivation. Others focus on leadership. Others focus on personal growth. The assumption that there is only one acceptable way to discuss business is itself flawed. And let's be honest about something else. If Meghan had spent the entire interview discussing revenue models, manufacturing strategies, partnership negotiations, and business logistics, many of the same critics would likely have complained that she was cold, corporate, and disconnected. The target simply moves. The criticism evolves. The conclusion remains the same. That pattern has followed Meghan for years. No matter what she says, critics claim she said the wrong thing. No matter what she does, critics insist she did it incorrectly. No matter what she achieves, critics argue it doesn't count. At some point, people have to ask whether the issue is really Meghan's performance, or whether some critics have already decided that nothing she does will ever be enough. And that brings us to the larger lesson from this entire conversation. Whether you love Meghan, dislike Meghan, or fall somewhere in between, one fact remains undeniable. She continues to build despite extraordinary scrutiny. Most people will never experience that level of public criticism. Most people will never have headlines written about every decision they make. Most people will never have entire online communities dedicated to dissecting their every move. Yet Meghan continues moving forward. That persistence alone deserves recognition. Success doesn't require universal approval. Success doesn't require winning over every critic. Success doesn't require convincing people who are determined not to be convinced. Success often means continuing anyway. And perhaps that's the message many viewers took away from the interview. Not that business is easy. Not that every answer was perfect. Not that every critic was wrong. But that resilience matters. That growth matters. That continuing to create despite opposition matters. For Meghan's supporters, the conversation wasn't about proving perfection. It was about seeing a woman who has endured years of criticism continue to bet on herself and continue building something new. And in a world where so many people give up after the first wave of negativity, that's a lesson worth paying attention to. What do you think? Did Meghan successfully share the mindset behind her entrepreneurial journey, or do you think critics have a point when they say she should focus more on business specifics? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this discussion and want more positive coverage of Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and the Sussex story that you won't find in much of the mainstream conversation, make sure you subscribe to Sussex Champions, turn on notifications, and join our growing community. Like this video, share it with fellow supporters, and remember, sometimes the loudest criticism reveals just how influential someone truly remains. Until next time, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.